Thank you, Mr. Bozeman. I have just a couple of more questions. Mr. McWilliam, you state that in fiscal year 2007, over 146,000 separated military personnel and spouses were trained in 4,716 workshops worldwide. Is that active duty only?
The majority of that is active duty only, yes ma'am. There are some reservists who attend those workshops. I don't have the number in front of me, but it's a very small number.
If you could follow up with us and get us the actual breakdown. And can you tell us how many service members separated in fiscal year 2007?
It's approximately 200,000, ma'am, but I'd have to, I'll ask DOD to get that back to you.
Okay. And do you have any numbers specific to South Dakota? Or can you get that to us as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Both for separation and participation?
Certainly.
Okay. Then on the Vets Employment Workshop that you mentioned, I think this is a great service. But I was wondering if you could identify what you think is the major reason that service members and their families don't opt to participate.
Ma'am, I believe, and this is very anecdotal, based on trips that my Assistant Secretary and I have made to military installations. It was mentioned earlier, the operational tempo of the military is very high right now. I think many people come back, especially from deployment, active duty, and they have one interest, and that's to leave the service and to get out as quickly as they can, and that's what they do.
And then a final question for you, Mr. McWilliam. You've mentioned that spouses have also received employment and job training assistance. Are families generally informed that these programs are available to them, and if so, how?
Ma'am, spouses are eligible to attend the employment workshops. Approximately 3,100 have over the last year.
How are they informed?
I don't know, ma'am.
Okay.
I would assume, I have just to assume they are through the Department of Defense and through the publicity that they make for the TAP employment workshop. But I will ask the Department of Defense people and get back to you.
Okay. It's too bad we can't ask them ourselves here today, but I appreciate that, Mr. McWilliam. Mr. Kelpin. Okay, so we have 16 trained ombudsmen here in South Dakota, correct? That's just here in South Dakota.
Yes, ma'am. We have 16 trained in the state of South Dakota.
And I think you had said that there were 116 information requests, filings, and then 14 cases, but no cases had been sent on in 18 months, that those were fielded and mediated by the ombudsman.
That is correct.
Can you tell us, understanding any privacy concerns here as it relates to employment and USERRA rights, can you tell us generally, for the subcommittee's edification, do you see any trends identified in those information cases? Was it just generally an employer not being as familiar as they might otherwise be with USERRA rights? Anything related to the disability accommodations that you mentioned specific to PTSD? Can you offer the subcommittee anything and sort of what the outcomes might have been of some of those that were fielded and mediated?
The breakdown of fiscal year 07 issues that our ombudsman dealt with, we had 5 retirements. We ended up with 7 seniority or status type positions, 6 termination, 4 vacation, 6 dealt with benefits, and 1 was over promotions.
Okay, but those were all mediated over the last 18 months?
That is correct, 100% successful.
Very good. And then one last question, I think, for you, Mr. Philman. You know, it's helpful to hear that the VA and DoD are working together to ensure wider dissemination of information with regard to the array of benefits and services offered. Because one of the things that we learned in Indiana at a field hearing there is that when we did have someone from DoD at that field hearing testifying, was some of the information that was being disseminated was only going to active duty service members. And we had a spouse of a reservist testify in the first panel who was receiving no information. And the DoD witness acknowledged that information about benefits it was almost like DoD didn't feel it was their responsibility to give it to National Guardsmen and women and reservists. Can you just share with us an example of then the information that you're providing, and I assume that this is going out to guardsmen and women in terms of the information that VBA is sending out, understanding the issue of the delay and the question Mr. Bozeman posed about where you're sending it, and that's the address put on the DD 214.
Well, I don't know specifically how to answer that question, other than that I do know that those that were activated when they are at the remote sites, there are people that are giving the tap sessions, so they're aware of that. And as I mentioned before, we are available to go out to the various guard units, but I would offer that they do need improvement on more information as to what is available. So I would welcome any additional resources or invitations to those.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Smith, and you and Mr. Philman may be aware that we had a legislative hearing with the subcommittee on a bill introduced by Congressman Dennis Cardoza that would actually authorize a compact disc of that information being disseminated to every service member following deployment. And so we are working with Mr. Cardoza to try to move that bill. While it has been identified by the Congressional Budget Office having a cost associated with it, we think it's far worth whatever cost it is to be able to distribute a compact disc with this benefits information for military members and their families. And we hope to be able to have some good news on that from either this Congress or early next Congress to facilitate the efforts of your office. Well, I think unless Mr. Bozeman has any final questions, I want to thank all of you on this final panel as well for being here, for the testimony you've offered and the insights that you've shared, and your service to the nation's veterans and your respective capacities working with the employers, working with the VA, and certainly with the Department of Labor, all of whom do great work on behalf of our service members. And I also want to take a moment to thank again Mr. Bozeman for traveling to South Dakota once again. We like having Arkansans in South Dakota, especially during the summer, so you take the good word back to get out of the humidity in Arkansas to come up to South Dakota during summer vacations for your constituents down there. I want to thank the folks here at Rapid City Central High School for accommodating us here in their auditorium to be able to host this field hearing, the Rapid City community for being always so open and receptive to anything that we're doing in our official capacity to help our service members and our veterans. And of course, a very strong words of appreciation for members of our subcommittee staff who are here, who counsel us effectively, who help us prepare, who work in all of the preparation, but also the important follow-up that we'll be pursuing and all of the logistics associated with, again, getting us out of Washington, D.C. and out in the field to meet with all of you. So we thank all of the folks that are here from our offices, as well as the folks from the community, the facilitators of the TAP program that have traveled here as well, and those of you that have served as witnesses on our panel. Thank you very much. The hearing now stands adjourned.